guys, Lackawanna Valley Railfan here. And so, here's my video that I was talking about recently, finally being shown on your screens. I apologize for the delay, as I had informed you of this a while ago, but regardless, it's here. If you guys haven't seen by the title of this video, today I'm going to be diving into a deep analysis on the interesting aspect about railroading. This type of video is definitely something I've never done before in the history of my channel, so let me know if you want to see more of these in the future. Anyway, let's get right into the video. If you railfan multiple different railroads, especially short line railroads for example, then you might run into these signs scattered around the main lines, each having their own name that could symbolize a town, valley, rail line, something to give it a separate call sign. Now most people won't really notice them at first glance, but they serve an important purpose on how train authority and labeling works. Throughout this video, I'll be basing some rules off of the Northeast Operating Rules Advisory Committee, or NORAC for short. Anyways, these railroad posts vary in different railroad names, like a block station, control point sign, block marker, station sign, rail post. The possibilities are probably endless. For this video, however, I'll be referring to them as station signs. Now, what are the main purposes for them, you may ask? Just listen to this transmission. What y'all just heard was the conductor of the Reading Blue Mountain and Northern Railroad's PINR, Pittston and North Reading Extra Freight, that occasionally ran whenever a passenger excursion would hog the line towards North Reading. This train is unlike the NRFF, the North Reading Fast Freight, which usually leaves North Reading for Pittston and back, but this train does the opposite, turning at North Reading and then heading back to Pittston. So here they're heard repeating their Form D to the dispatcher to proceed on the single-tracked Lehigh division between coal and division. Now, time to break this down. First off, the train addresses that they're at the point of pit, where centralized traffic control, or CTC, abruptly starts at the end of yard limits. After that, they copied that they received a line number 2. A line 2 is permission to proceed on a certain portion of track that's quite simply not controlled by the dispatcher with CTC, and this specific section of track can only be occupied by one train until it's been fulfilled. All this would be addressed as a Form D, which is stated inside the NORAC handbook. The next most important aspect of the Form D control system, or also formally known as DCS ruling system, that they had addressed that day, was their permission to operate in both directions, both north and south, from coal to division. First off, at the time when this transmission had been heard, it was an autumn day in 2021, meaning that it would have been only 1 year after the brand new Nesquehoning-Y connecting bridge was built to connect the Reading Division to the Lehigh Division to provide a path for the newly established NRFF at the time to get from North Reading to Pittston and back, instead of having to interchange at Lehighton south of Jim Thorpe on the Norfolk Southern's Upper Lehigh line. Now, because at the time of filming in 2021, the tri-light signaling and CTC wiring was still yet to be installed over the new Y from the new sign of Jim Thorpe Junction to the coal interlocking in the Lehigh Gorge. When they got their authority, they had clearance to the division sign, which is 1 mile railroad south of the Y. So now, here in 2024, the signal installation at the Y has been completed, with the next step being to finish installing CTC on the rest of the RBMN main line from the Jim Thorpe Junction area, south towards Hawks Junction, where CTC starts again. Getting back to the main point, station signs can mark certain sections and yard limits on a main line, but there are many more ways that they behave on the railroad. Another important rule for them is to name a switch, junction, interlocking, or separating privately owned track. An example of this would be here at the Myrtle Street crossing on the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad's Pocono, Maine at the edge of Naog Park, where you could see the switch, as well as its sign, Naog. This sign also implements the start of DCS rule where the Form D authority instruction starts on the Pocono main line and is where Rule 97 track ends. Rule 97 meaning movement on a running track. Furthermore, once an eastbound train were to fully clear that position on the switch, the crew would have to report that they entered DCS rule at that location using the station sign's name. Same goes for when a westbound were to clear this point, they'd have to report into Rule 97 track, as well as to state that all switches in the DCS rule have been realigned to the normal position. Other examples of switch names can be found here at Moscow, whereas the west end switch of the siding being called Moscow, that comes from the name of the town, and the east end switch being called Dale, which is short for the Daleville neighborhood in Covington Township. All these can be used as limits when the dispatcher addresses a Form D, can control the traffic past the siding switches and derails, give limits to other mainline activity like maintenance away equipment, can split the mainline into shorter block sections if need be, and also can control the Rule 98 movement that's in effect on the siding from end to end, which is most reasonable. Also remember that in non-CTC territory, only one train can occupy a length of track from post to post unless otherwise stated. Mileposts, in fact, can also be used as limits by trains, MO, and other movements that can be addressed in a Form D if a station sign is not present at the designated limits. Now, what did I mean earlier when I said that a station sign could, quote, separate privately owned track? Take a look at this post. This is Ridge Row in Scranton, and all the tracks you see here are a part of the Scranton running track that runs all the way towards the Naog post from the connections with Norfolk Southern at the Steamtown Walk. Notice how this sign is different from the other posts at Moscow and Dale, this one being white and black instead of maroon and yellow. That's because this sign shows the end of the National Park Service owned track and is the limit for how far Steamtown Scranton excursions can travel to, hence the name. Anything after the Scranton sign, all the way up to the Slate sign at Slateford Junction, is owned by the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Rail Authority, PNRRA. With that being said, this concludes the modern aspects of these station signs. However, there's one last thing I want to leave off on. Remember the photo I leaked in my community section about this video? If so, then you'll notice an image of an old rusty sign from the deceased Delaware and Hudson Railroad. This is located on the Delaware-Lackawanna's Carbondale main line in South Archibald, where the storage siding for the Simona Plastics industry, not in view, is located. I wanted to include this post as it relates to what I talked about in this video. Although you can't see the lettering, I could safely predict that this sign used to say Winton on it, because that's what this section of Archibald was and still is referred to as. Just around the corner from this site sits the site of the old D&H Winton station, which is probably why the post is there, in order to signal the arrival of the nearby station. This isn't the only D&H post I was able to find on the Carbondale line, however. There's another one that's located at the Poplar Street crossing in Mayfield, about 4 miles north of the other post at Archibald. I honestly don't know what this sign could have controlled, considering the station would have been on the other side of town. I don't know what this sign could have been named, perhaps May for Mayfield. However, it seems like a letter A is what it started with, so it could have said Ararat on it, but that doesn't make any sense considering the town of Ararat was located farther north up the D&H Penn Division. If anyone knows anything about that, please feel free to leave a comment. And with that comes the closing of this video. I hope you all enjoyed this analysis. Let me know if I should continue making this type of content. But yet again, as always, rail fans, stay safe. Lackawanna Valley Rail Fan out.